So we are live. Welcome to the three C's of success. This is a presentation just about how to transform your goals and aspirations into actual achievements in less time, with less effort, with less risk, etc. I'm going to pull up. I've prepared, what are affectionately known as Scott's crappy slides for you. And let me see if I can get that pulled up reasonably quickly. This is the part I always struggle with. You'd think I could get good at it. Cool. All right. So the three C's of success is what's on topic for today. This is a system that I've learned from Nick Peterson primarily, but also it's something I think Dan Nicholson talks about in his book Rigging the Game. It's a very easy three-step process to getting greater clarity, greater certainty, and collapsing time as you're trying to accomplish the things that you're trying to accomplish. And so I'm going to start with a compelling introduction. This is an idea that comes from Jeff Moore. I was on a call with him just last Saturday, and we were going through this exercise. I'm going to share my compelling introduction, not because you don't already know who I am, but because I think if you want to screenshot this or whatever, this is a model that you can use to create a compelling introduction of your own, something that's short, sweet, to the point that will pique the right people's interest and get the wrong people to keep on moving along. So I'm Scott Perry of Creative on Purpose. I help coaches and creatives simplify and stimulate their client acquisition system so they can spend more time doing the work that really matters to them and less time on content creation and marketing. So most of you already have a sense of what I do. Next thing I'm going to do is comes directly from Nick Peterson, and this is the idea of allegiance capital. So if you've been with me before, you have been through this almost every time we've met. It's a way of kind of inception marketing. It's letting people know number one, that they know why they're here and that they're in the right place. They know what's going to happen after, or they know what to do next, and then they know what's going to happen afterwards. This is a way of helping people uh, feel like you're earning a little bit more allegiance, a little bit more permission, a little bit more trust. So if I were to do an allegiance capital type of introduction of the three C's of success, today we're going to learn the three-step approach to achieving your priorities that you can rinse and repeat so that you can close the gap in less time and with greater certainty around your life's priority or priorities and goals. If you have some clarity about your life or business priorities already, you probably want to accelerate achieving them. And if that is what you want, you're definitely in the right place. If you don't have a clearly identified or specific priority or goal right now, that's fine. I would still hang out. You can go to the Path to Purpose article in the Substack, and that will give you a couple of different ways that you can start to gain clarity about what you really want in life or business. Um, what do you do next? Well, if you don't already have it, I'd grab a pen and paper and take some notes, especially if you're here as a free subscriber. Only the paid subscribers will have access to this recording, at least immediately. Sometimes I do repurpose this later on or repurpose parts of it. And then those of you that are paid subscribers, I hope you'll hang out after the free portion of the call for Q&A and implementation. And yeah, with that, I've dropped the subscribe link. If anybody wants to upgrade, they can. And so let's get started with the situation. Question for you all. Have you ever set a goal, got really excited about it, started hustling toward it with energy and enthusiasm, only to find yourself exhausted days, weeks, or months later? Anybody want to raise their hand as to having experienced something like that before? Maybe you're experiencing something like that right now. If you're in this room and you are a freelancer, a teacher, a healer, a coach, a consultant, a solopreneur, a creative, you have experienced this multiple times. It's likely that you're experiencing it right now. Um, you may be experiencing this or have experienced it recently, even if you're using popular system like SMART goals, right? SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable. Um, I can't remember what the R is, something like relevant or reasonable, and then time bound. It's a really popular format. It's a format I've used. It's a format that I've taught. It's also a format that I found to be not very effective. And if it were more effective, I think there would be less people experiencing a lack of achievement in their goals, even if they're using the SMART system. And we'll get into a little bit of why that is, why SMART goals don't always work or maybe work often. And we're going to learn an approach that's going to actually help you get where you want to be in less time with less risk and with less effort. And now my slides don't want to change, but let's see if I can rectify that. Okay, so here's the solution. The three C's of success are clarity, certainty, and collapsing time. So Yusuf and David probably have heard this before. It's something I've heard Nick Peterson teach many times in his Nicksmith episodes, in live events in Phoenix, and on Guardian calls and so forth. It's something, again, that I think Dan Nicholson speaks to in Rigging the Game. You can get more information about this there, but what I'm going to show you is this process that I have adopted and learned and been practicing for the last couple of years. And it provides a really simple, effective system for gaining traction and momentum with your goal achievement plan. So right here, I just want to quickly give you some, like, when we talk about goals and priorities, sometimes we use those words, and we conflate them or confuse them. I'm going to give you my personal definition. I'm a big believer in setting a singular priority. Priority is actually a word that was only used in the singular until the early 1900s. It wasn't until like the 1920s or so that we started talking about priorities, meaning you could have more than one. I'm a big believer in having two or three priorities that I have in mind for my life, but I always prioritize my priorities so that I have a single one that I want to accomplish first, the one that will follow that, and the one that will follow that. Sometimes we call that waterfalling your priorities. These are kind of the bigger, longer term things. So for instance, a priority for me in I guess it was 2019, was when my son and daughter-in-law announced that they were pregnant. I wanted to be the primary daycare, my wife and I, for our grandson, which meant that I had to really re-engineer the way that I built and conduct my business. And so my number one priority was engineering a business around being able to care for my grandson 9 hours a day, 5 days a week. That was a priority. Once that priority kind of got locked in, which it luckily did, just in that year before we started becoming daycare, my priority shifted to the second priority. Right now, my wife and I are working on a 2-year plan to make our businesses completely sustainable and mobile so that we can spend at least a year traveling. We're gonna become digital nomads for at least a year. We're gonna try that on. So that's a priority. And for me, the goals are the shorter term things that are helping achieve that. So like right now, I'm working on making sure that I can consistently earn a monthly revenue, working 2 hours a day. That allows me to spend the rest of my time enjoying traveling, being with my life, and so forth. So that's kind of the way I think of priorities and goal. Priority, the number one thing that you're working toward. Goal or goals are the steps that you need to take to get there. So the next step is I want to kind of set the table for how we're going to see how the three C's can help us overcome the things that normally impede us from achieving our priorities and goals, especially if we're using that SMART goals method or system. So the first setting the table quote is from Virginia Satir. Again, David and Yusuf have heard this before. It comes up in the Guardian Academy quite a bit. Most prefer the certainty of misery to the misery of uncertainty. We are creatures of habit. We like the status quo. We like to know where we stand and what's expected. We also have this adventurous side where we like to pursue the new and the novel, and we like to seek the edges of our understanding ability, but these things are always kind of we're toggling back and forth between these things. In general, most of us have a pretty low threshold for uncertainty, and and can feel easily confused when we are venturing into the unknown. So we tend to stick with what we know, even if it's not really serving us. So you can see this sometimes in people in relationships, like they'll stay with an unhealthy relationship even though it's impeding their happiness, because it's the devil they know, and being able to know what to expect and where they stand in an unhealthy relationship is more desirable sometimes than that opportunity to end that relationship and explore another relationship. We do this in our businesses all the time. And we're going to get to another quote here in a minute that will speak directly to that. But if you find yourself doing the same things that you've always been doing and not getting any closer to achieving your goals that those strategic or tactical things are supposed to help you reach, then you are experiencing the certainty of misery over the misery of uncertainty. Next quote is from W. Edwards Deming. He's an interesting character. I suggest just checking him out. Kind of a Renaissance man, and he has this thing. Every system is perfectly designed to get the results it gets. So what does that mean? Well, if you have a really effective, efficient, lean system, clear of all cruft and optimizing all the elements, you have an effective system, an efficient system. If you have a crappy system that's not getting you the results that you want and you keep using that system, you're going to keep getting crappy results. That's the way the system is designed. So it's just a recognition that it is what it is, and that, we probably shouldn't be surprised when a a gloated, system full of all sorts of extraneous, unnecessary components is not allowing us to get from where we are to where we want to be more efficiently and effectively. The next one, I've, I'm sure someone has said this before. I've never seen a citation for this quote exactly as I've written it, but what got you where you are won't get you where you want to be. And this is speaking back to the Virginia Satir quote. What got you where you are was a great way to get where you are. If you are going to continue to make progress, you are going to have to make some changes in behavior. You're going to have to make some changes in your system. You're going to have to make some changes maybe in your goals or how you pursue them, because what got you where you are is a perfectly designed system for you to be where you are. It's not a perfectly designed or even moderately good system for getting you further along. This is why we experience plateaus. We get to a certain point and we wonder why we're not continuing to make progress. This can be in weight loss, this could be in fitness or strength building, this could be in business. So what got you where you are won't get you where you want to be. Next one is confidence is belief in yourself, certainty is belief in your beliefs. Confidence is a bridge, certainty is a barricade. This is from Kevin Ashton's book, How to Fly a Horse. I've recommended this book dozens and dozens and dozens of times to this community. If you haven't, if you haven't checked it out, I think it's a fantastic book. I recommend it highly. But basically, the idea is we are creatures that cling to certainty. We believe what we believe simply because we believe it, and we surround ourselves that believe what we believe, and we throw rocks at the people that don't believe what we believe, even though they are not absolute truths, even though they do not stand up to scrutiny, even though they can't pass the scientific method. They're not. So someone is actually off mute, and if you could just put yourself on mute, I'd appreciate that. So if your certainties do not stand up to logic, reasoning, and evidence, they're not certainties. They're actually delusions. And so what we want to do is understand that this idea of curiosity, and the curiosity that can lead to a little more courage, a little more confidence, a little more clarity is the idea that we want to embrace here. Next is, got a slideshow hiccup again. This is the last setting of the table piece. Deciding to repeat today what historically hasn't worked is the same as making the same bad decision every day. This is part of what's called sometimes the investor frame. It's an idea I got from Dan Nicholson. And um, it's basically this idea circling back to the relationship example. If you are in an unhealthy relationship and tomorrow you stay in that unhealthy relationship and do nothing about it, you have actually just made another decision, another bad decision to stay in an unhealthy relationship. So this idea of continuing to do what you've always done, even though it's not getting you the results that you want, those are bad decisions. And when you make those bad decisions every single day, you're actually just repeating a bad decision. So something to think about there. So here are the antidotes that we're going to talk about as we unpack the 3 C's of success. The first is this idea. And so I'm going to like fire hose to the face on these because I've gone over these many times in past trainings. You can take a screenshot of this and you can actually, you can look these up on the Substack and you'll be able to get more information about them. Um, So check the rearview mirror, open loop learning, knowledge, learning, intelligence, virtue, and wisdom, engage the field and force multipliers. Checking the rearview mirror. Here's something that we don't do often enough. As purpose-driven, generous, empathetic difference makers, we're always looking out the window, trying to chase that dream, trying to look for the silver bullet that's going to solve all our problems with our business, that magic formula or what have you. And we don't pay enough attention to the rearview mirror looking back at what's worked for us in the past. So I'll just give you a quick personal example. Uh, when I became a coach, it was after years of trying other things. Here's how that happened. I went into the Alt MBA in 2016. It changed my life. It changed the trajectory of my vocation, right? Had been a very successful musician and teacher. I decided I heard this new calling in my life. I wanted to pursue this other thing. I didn't know exactly what that was. But in the Alt MBA, I was actually tapped to be one of the Alt MBA coaches in future sessions. So I had like this little whisper from life saying, hey, you'd be a great coach. I decided that I wanted to try to be a public speaker, even though I didn't have any experience as a public speaker. And what was interesting is that even though I had a 25-year career at that point as a performing musician and frontman, I was a lousy speaker. So then I decided I'd become a course creator. And even though I'd been a teacher for 25 years, it turned out I was a really crappy course creator. And it wasn't until out of desperation, the need to make some kind of money and the begging of friends who were saying, hey, you're a great coach, you should just be a coach, that I finally decided to try coaching. So I was looking out the rearview mirror at all these things I wanted to do when life was telling me, this is exactly what you should be doing. It was there in front of me the whole time. Another rearview moment was when I, decided I was going to try to put out a coaching offer. I put it on a Google Doc. I put a PayPal link on it, description of the program, PayPal link, contacted all the people that told me I'd be a great coach and say, hey, guess what? I'm a coach now. Do you want to buy this? And I decided that if 10 people bought this offer, I would build a coaching business. 11 people bought it. I started a coaching business. I started earning money. I started gaining traction and momentum as a coach. And then instead of just doing what was already working, I started working on a logo and working on a website and working on a YouTube channel and working on social media content, trying to build a funnel, a lead magnet, an email list, did all the things. And all it did was slow me down and actually start moving me backwards because I was spending all of my time doing things that had nothing to do with coaching, just had things that there were things that digital marketers and gurus were telling me I had to do if I was going to be a coach. And it wasn't until I finally recognized that, looked in the rearview mirror and said, I had something that worked and I stopped doing it. And instead I gave myself all these homework assignments. So that's an example of using the rearview mirror. Look back at what has already worked for you and how can you start doing more of that. Open loop learning, we've talked about many times. It comes from the Harvard Business Review article. It's just this idea that don't, you're a smart person, of course. Smart people like to be valid and right, of course, but it's more important to be helpful and useful. You're going to get loops opened in this conversation. I'm just encouraging you to keep them open. Don't Google the answers. Don't try to close the loop with, the first thing that comes up on Google or the first thing that some digital marketer tells you on Facebook. Keep the loop open. Be open to possibility. Be considerate, meaning consider other possibilities and don't and explore those possibilities before you close the loop and make a decision about what you're going to do. Knowledge, learning, intelligence, virtue, and wisdom. Those of you from the Guardian Academy know about knowledge, learning, and intelligence. Knowledge is information gathering. It's fun. We all do it. And knowledge does not equal change, right? Knowledge, it's not about collecting dots. It's about connecting dots. And that can only happen when you learn, when you apply learning. Learning is when you apply knowledge so that you can find yourself in a similar situation to something you've experienced in the past and behave differently. Learning is about changing behavior, changing habits, and building skills that help you get closer to what you want, which is the definition of an intelligence. Intelligence is simply the ability to get what you want. Those all come from various sources in the Guardian Academy. I add virtue and wisdom because I'm a philosophy nut. And, for me, virtue is getting what you want while maintaining intention and integrity. And wisdom is having the wisdom to understand that you are not entitled to the fruits of your labor. You're just entitled to the process, that you don't cling to your desires and expectations about the things that you want. You trust yourself, you trust the process, and the process becomes its own reward. Engaging the field is an idea that we're talking about quite a bit in the Guardian Academy right now. This is just that idea that you're going to learn something and you're going to apply it to your work in real time, in real life, out loud, and in public so that you can create type feedback loops that help you solidify knowledge, turn it into learning so that you can apply it with intelligence to get closer to the things that you want. And then force multipliers are where are the leverage points? Where are the things that if you crank on them a little bit more, it will help ratchet your progress forward toward what you get or what you want. It's a way of increasing the velocity, the time to target. All right, that was a big fire hose to the face. Again, you can, for those of you that have access to the replay, I recommend reviewing all that or going to the Substack and reviewing those concepts. Now we get to the main course: clarity, certainty, collapsing time. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually look at these in reverse order. Collapsing time is what we all want. We want to get from where we are to where we want to be. We want to close the gap in less time. You can't collapse time unless you have some certainty about the path. Certainty about what are the necessary steps that I need to take in order to get the thing that I want to achieve my goal or priority. And certainty comes from clarity, clarity of destination. Where are you going? But here's the part that people often miss. They don't have actually enough clarity about where they're really starting from, what they're really starting with, and who they really are and why they really want what they want. And so that is the hardest part I find for people to wrap their heads around, in part because, when you get in the car and turn on Google Maps, it automatically tells you where you are. You input the destination and it finds the most efficient path for you, and it course corrects as you go in case anything happens in terms of traffic, out bridges, weather conditions, what have you, traffic conditions. It will help you find the most efficient path. But in our lives and in our businesses, we have to actually find those 2 points of the vector ourselves. We have to have enough clarity about where we're going and enough clarity about who we are, what we're really good at, where we really belong, what assets and resources we're starting with so that we can plot that vector, find the necessary steps that need to be taken so that we can increase certainty that we're going to reach our target, and that we can then increase the velocity, collapse time to target. So now I'll kind of move back through the sequence. So if you want to collapse time, you'll have to get certainty on the path, the necessary steps, and you'll have to have starting point and beginning point. So certainty begins with the diagnostic. Where am I starting? What am I starting with? What resources and assets do you have? And, you know, who am I? What is it that I truly believe? What's my philosophy about what I want around what I want and why I want it? What are the principles, the truths about trying to get from where I am to where I want to be? Then we can start to create a Google map instead of a MapQuest. MapQuest, for those of you that some of you kids might not remember, but before Google Maps, we had to put in our starting point and destination and then get a 20-page printout of our directions, and then hopefully had a co-pilot to read those to you as you were going. What it didn't account for was changes in traffic conditions, changes in road construction, changes in all sorts of things. So we weren't able to course correct with MapQuest. But if we approach this with the 3 Cs, we actually are creating a Google Maps situation where, as we're micro-stepping toward our destination, we will get more clarity about not only our destination, but what the next right step is to help us get closer to it. And then the other part of that diagnostic piece is that we had a whole training on this before: recapture and reallocate. Looking at where am I spending my valuable time, attention, money, and effort, and maybe other things like reputation, and what's the return on investment on each of those things in terms of achieving my priority or goal. And if you're not getting an adequate return on investment, how do you recapture those resources and reallocate them to the things that are going to help you get where you want to get in a more efficient, effective manner? Which brings us to the certainty. So the clarity is kind of that diagnostic piece. The certainty piece is more the strategic piece. It's the plan. How am I going to get from where I am to where I want to be? Where am I, and how do I get where I want to be? And so around that, you want to get certainty of direction and crafting this path. Those of you that have done other trainings with me around goal achievement know that I'm a big fan of, like, what are the 3 things that have to go right in order for me to get from where I am to where I want to be, to get to that priority or goal. And so it gets turned into a system reliability exercise. Just by way of example, when I was looking at my business and how do I go from spending 10 hours a day earning a part-time living to only spending a few hour days and earn a full-time living in my coaching business, I decided to start with first principles thinking, reasoning from first principles. In order to have a business where I work part-time hours for full-time pay, I need to have an irresistible offer, an eager audience for that offer, and I have to have an efficient 30-minute a day sales strategy that's going to put that offer in front of that audience in a consistent manner so that I can continue to fill my programs and achieve my revenue goals. And once I plotted those 3 things, I simply kind of looked at which of these 3 pieces is the least efficient piece right now, and I simply raised the floor on that piece. There's also a case for not pushing on the ceiling and squeezing down the ceiling as well. But most of the time, even when we have those 3 things that we know we need to do, we have this vector that's a straight line to destination, but we end up doing a lot of this. But if we raise the floor on the least efficient piece of our system every time, we actually exponentially increase the efficiency of the system far more than if we try to just keep beating our personal best around each of those pieces. So that is the certainty piece. And then finally, collapsing time is this idea of not speed, not it's not increasing how fast you go, because you can be stepping on the gas and have the emergency brake on. You can be stepping on the gas and be going in circles, going in the wrong direction, heading off a cliff. Velocity is about here's where I am now, here's where I want to be, and what is the most efficient path to my destination. Velocity is about cutting down on any friction, reducing obstacles, removing limits, self-imposed and imposed by the outside, so that you can straighten out that vector. Again, system reliability plays into this. If we raise the floor and mitigate the risks of pushing too high on the ceiling, we increase velocity. And uh, just a real quick reflection on pushing the ceiling. You have to recognize that all you need to do is do enough in each of those things to get where you want to go. Anytime you try to exceed what's adequate and necessary, you risk overwhelm, you risk burnout, you risk blowing yourself up by putting too many resources into something that's already working efficiently and trying to get it to just work harder, faster. Just think about what happens if you're pressing on the gas, increasing the RPMs in your vehicle all the time. You will burn out the engine. The point is, if what do I need to maintain a consistent, fast or quick enough velocity towards my destination? Um, the other thing about the collapsing time piece is you want to make sure that you started with a reasonable time frame to begin with. When we wanted to change our businesses, my wife and I both, so that we could spend less time in our businesses, so we could spend more time with our grandson, but still continue to increase revenue, we actually had a little bit over a year, because our daughter-in-law is a school teacher, and so Jasper was born and well, he was born very early, but he was in the hospital for that extra time. So we had the 9 months of gestation and birth and recovery from premature birth, plus the 3 months of summer vacation. So we actually ended up having a full year to get our businesses in order, and turns out that that was actually adequate. Um, that whole experience actually gave me my most successful program, which is now called Coaching Business Mastery, where I take people through a process that helps them achieve what I achieved in a year and squish it down to something more like 90 days. And then the last thing about the collapsing time piece is the force multipliers piece. The biggest force multiplier for your success, the biggest point of leverage, in my estimation, is, well, maybe two things. The first is yourself, because the weakest component of any system, you've heard me say this before, is the human at the controls. So by making sure that you are, working on your own development, and that you're building better behaviors and better habits and better systems for yourself, for decision making, and for maintaining, optimum working capacity and all that. But then after that, the other relationship that's the biggest force multiplier are the relationships with other people. Making sure that you are um, spending less time with the people that are scrutinizing and have expectations about you that are not helpful or healthy, and spending more time with people that are fellow travelers uh, on a similar journey to you, that you're spending more time with mentors that have been there and done that, can help you do the same, or a corner person, someone that can help you from a kind of philosophical principles based level, um, help you maintain that foundation even as you're trying strategy, tactical, and playing with tools. So I've gone already about 10 minutes over. So I will be happy to take those of you in the paid subscriber community through some examples of this. I've touched on some in this training. I hope that that is helpful. I'm going to stop my share here because it is time for the Q&A. So we'll say goodbye to those of you that are leaving, and then we will say hello to my real friends, the real deal folks, Catherine, Penny, and Yusuf.
Hi, Benny.
Hi.
Poor Penny. It was fire hose to the face from the beginning, and then you walked in when it
I
already
had,
on full blast.
well, I had 3:30 in mind instead of 3. That was my mistake. So it was me. I could have come at 3. I didn't because I didn't
Well,
check carefully enough.
the good news is that you'll have access to the replay, so no worries there.
Right.
Let's just go right to the Q&A because I only have about 20 minutes. But yeah, fire away. How was that for everybody on a scale of 1 to 10, no sevens allowed? How useful or helpful was that? Which means it was either
6.
8 or 6. What was that, Yusuf?
A 6 for me.
6 for Yusuf. Catherine?
For sure, 8. And I think maybe I haven't heard a lot of it before, so there was a lot of aha.
Awesome.
What little I heard, I would give it an 8 also.
Awesome. So Yusuf, since you're lowballing me, let's start with your questions.
I'm actually trying to figure out my questions because I was so like in my own little world while you were talking and trying to explain it to myself that I'm gonna. So I would like someone else take my turn because I have nothing.
All right, so Yusuf is sandbagging and kicking it over to Penny and Catherine. So we'll let one of you guys go first. One of you gals, sorry.
I'd love some examples.
Sure. So just to take that one example that I was kind of touching on periodically, you know, so there's some other helpful tools that the 3 C's actually kind of work well with and amplify, and they're synergistic and integrated. The goal achievement pyramid is one of them. The path to purpose exercises are one of them. And I've written about it, but I haven't presented on it yet. But Lucas Rashecki's clarity hierarchy is another one. But basically, just to give a little more context, Catherine, if you look at the inversion of clarity, certainty, collapsing time, and go collapsing time, certainty, clarity as like a kind of a reverse ladder or a reverse journey, the certainty, or I'm sorry, the collapsing time is going to kind of come from the philosophy and principle space. The certainty is going to come from the strategy space. I'm sorry, just the opposite. The clarity is coming from the philosophy and principles. The certainty is coming from strategy, and the collapsing time is where you're going to be applying tools and tactics. So kind of mapping that over the 3 C's, when my priority became being able to provide full-time care for my grandson, I started with, what do I believe? Well, I believe, number one, that I want to take care of my grandson. And number two, that I had this fundamental belief that if I could just figure out the 3 things that were necessary, that I would be able to figure that out. Principle wise, I went to the reasoning from first principles, like what is necessary in order to create a thriving business that allows you to work part-time hours and earn a full-time living. And I came up with the same thing that every successful business has dialed in well enough: offer, audience, sales strategy. And when I say irresistible offer, eager audience, and 30-minute-a-day sales strategy, it's getting each of those things good enough to get some consistent results and then optimizing that system. I had a good enough offer from the beginning. I had a good enough audience dialed in pretty much from the beginning because I had been doing it for a while. What was really not working well for me was the sales and marketing piece. I was spending literally like 8-10 hours a day on my sales and marketing and like 2 or 3 hours a week on coaching. It was a really out of balance. So operating from those principles, the strategy piece that I put in was stuff that I learned from Laurel Portier, like putting out content that was helpful and relevant to the people that I wanted to serve, but also gave them a reason to start a conversation for me. Because the other principal element for me was the fastest path to cash is conversation, building authentic connection, communication, and collaboration with people that I'm actually a perfect fit for. And so the strategy was put content in front of those people that would get them to raise their hand for some sort of discovery call or article, YouTube video that I already had. And then tactically, it was messenger conversations for the most part that would lead to discovery calls. And then tools would be things like, you could try using AI. You could try using this idea of value bombs that Laurel has, which is basically you have a freebie that you're offering if they connect with you. So that's kind of working it through on multiple levels. So you got the hierarchy, philosophy, principles, strategy, tactics, tools. You've got the clarity, certainty, collapsing time layered on top of that, and then applying all those other principles that helped dial everything in. And what ended up happening, Catherine, is, so then it becomes a math problem. How many, I need to work at the time, it was 10 clients at $1,000 a month. That's what I needed. That was my goal. If I could get to 5, I was okay. If I got to 3, I had some work to do, but I could make it. That was like kind of what I knew going in. So at the beginning, it was okay. If I have to have 3 just to survive, 3, sorry, not 5, 3. If I have to have 3, how many discovery calls do I need to get 3 clients, and how many conversations do I have in Messenger to get those 3 calls? And what ended up happening was, I figured out, I can't remember all the exact numbers, but I'm just going to throw some out there. It was something like I was having like 50 calls a month, 50 conversations a month. I was getting 20 discovery calls a month, and I was able to get my 3 clients. Now, in terms of raising the floor, like, what do I have to get better at? Well, I can put more at the very beginning. Like if I double my conversations, I might double my discovery calls, which might double my clients, right? But, that's a lot of resource investment. I have to spend a lot more time on content, a lot more time on conversations, a lot more time on calls, and then I'm going to have a lot more clients. That's going to take more time. When I looked at my discovery call closing rate, it was, 20% is kind of an industry average. It depends on which niche you're in and all that, but I was way below. I think I was at 15%. So I decided, rather than increase my workload at the front end, I'd improve at the back end. And so I raised my closing percentage, and Penny was kind of bearing witness to some of this. I got to the point where I was closing 90 to 100% of my calls. It took a lot, but what I learned was, just to be fully transparent, I'm no different than most everyone else that's in this space. I hate marketing and I hate sales, and I hate all the ways that the digital marketers tell us to market and sell. Like find the pain point, dig in the pain, create urgency, create scarcity, blah 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 blah. And I was, what I discovered was basically, an early version of my Be a Blessing marketing. I'm just going to show up and do my work out loud and in public as much as humanly possible. I'm going to let people see me do what I do, see me make transformation happen with and for people that I care about. I'm going to give them basically all the information for free. And then, you know, enough of them want to subscribe to the newsletter, become paid subscribers, or at least attend the calls. And then I can continue. So, you know, I expose them to my work. They get some access to me through the monthly calls. And then they decide, or I'm sorry, they get more proximity. Then they want more access. So they join a $300 program, $1,000 program, or whatever it is. But that was kind of so what would happen, Catherine, is by the time I would have conversations where I basically solve a bunch of problems for someone. And they would say, can you help me with this? Like, do you work with people like me? And I'd say, I don't know. Let's find out. Let's get on a call. They get on a call. You know, after they fill out a questionnaire, you filled out that questionnaire. And then it's just like, okay, well, here's what I see as your next best step. You know, and then it's like, I would never say, you want to buy something? It would just like, they'd say, well, how can I work with you? Well, I'd say, well, you could become a paid subscriber and have free access once a month, or, you know, twice a week, once a month. You can join. At that time I had a $300 program, you know, and do it in a group setting, kind of DIY it. Or you can work with me one-on-one, have access to everything that's downstream from that. And you can rinse and repeat, you know, a monthly coaching program as often as you want. And so what ended up happening, Catherine, is it's not a discovery call anymore. It's just they want to work with me. They're just trying to decide what they feel like they can do. And here's where everything changed. When I started offering people a free diagnostic or an onboarding call, that's basically the diagnostic. So the way it's engineered now is they buy the program, $1,000 a month. I then tell them, hey, onboarding call, not advertised, free of charge, 60 minutes. Here's the homework. We're going to get on a call. We're going to see where the blind spots are, where the black holes are, where money is being spent, time is being spent, energy is being spent that's giving you no return on investment. We're going to actually start by cleaning up your system so that it's more efficient before we even get started. And if I don't save you $1,000 in that call, at least $1,000, then I'm going to give you a refund, and you get that process for completely free. And ever since I've done that, number one, I work with way better clients. They are way more successful, and they immediately have no buyer's remorse. Like, I like this guy. I think he knows what he's doing. I'm not sure if it'll work for me. You know, buy the thing. Oh shit, did I just make a mistake? Oh wait, here's Scott with you know, he's going to take care of me right now. Holy cow, that's amazing. He just found me $10,000. I paid for him, and I paid for, you know, I have $9,000 to invest in my business now. Cool. Now I've got investment, buy-in, lock-in, and we're all moving in the same direction. We're all rowing in the same direction. So that was a lot, but that's kind of the entire thing. If you you know, look at how it can unfold, it's not that way for everyone. A lot of my clients are not, you know, so I have clients right now that, like, if you have some success, like if you're kind of, the way I think about it is, if you're at the $1,000 a month level, I can get you to 3 in a couple of months. If you're at the 3, I can get you to the 5. If you're at the 5, I can get you at the, you know, somewhere close to 10, 8 to 10. But you know, it's because of all that work that people have done before. Like, what everybody wants and what all the gurus promise is, no experience necessary. Earn $10,000. Now it's not even $10,000. It's like, earn $15,000, $20,000 a month as a coach. No experience or certification necessary. Plug and play system, works on autopilots. Like, bullshit. That doesn't work because it's never worked. But you know, that's what people, that's the thing, that if you are a generous, empathetic, compassionate, committed difference maker, you're competing against people's biology and evolution. They want the quick fix. They want the instant solution, the secret formula, the blueprint, the roadmap, whatever. And that's the hard part is, you know, can you prepare them for, can you tell them the truth in a way that doesn't make them run away? Really only have time for one more question. Go ahead, Yusuf.
I just want to make sure I understand this part. So in regards to clarity, certainty, collapsing time, your verdict, collapsing time, certainty, clarity. So what I've written to explain it myself. So collapsing time by it's the entire thing. So collapsing time by knowing where we are, be certain on the path of the beginning and the end points of point A to point B. And then clarity is the bridge that is there every step of the way to know where you are, where you want to go, and the steps in order to get there. Make sense?
Yes, that's you actually bring up a great point, right? Because again, when you're setting your vector, it's, are you clear enough on your destination? Most people are. Are you clear enough about who you are, where you're starting from, and what you're starting with? There's usually less clarity about that. That's why when I do the diagnostic about like where your current resource allocation and recapturing and reallocating, it blows people's mind because they're like, holy crap, I am literally wasting thousands of dollars a year, sometimes for some people, thousands of dollars a month. So there's that. But then the thing is, it's always about taking the next right step. And when you take that next right step, you're no longer where you were, you're where you are now. And so that clarity piece actually gets refined and iterated as you go, because now you still want to get here, or maybe that's even changed a little bit, but now you're here. And so certainty of the path, you know, can be adjusted, and collapsing time can be adjusted. And then you take the next right step. So that clarity and certainty increase as you continue to do the work. And the key to all of this, and this, I'm going to leave you with this closing point. I wish I'd said it on the public facing part of this. Dr. Jeff Spencer says that the champion's greatest tool is restraint. Again, resisting the urge for more and faster, because more and faster doesn't get you closer, because more actually diminishes the your system reliability and efficiency, and faster means that you're not able to pay close enough attention to the vector elements and to the obstacles and opportunities that you couldn't have possibly seen coming. So you can end up going really fast off a cliff. You can really end up going too fast and burning yourself out or blowing yourself up. So it's having the restraint to always just take the next right step, because, and we've talked about this many times, doing the right thing at the right time in the right sequence, microstep by microstep, compounds over time. Velocity increases because clarity and certainty is increasing as you refine the tools and tactics that are helping you navigate your strategy from where you are now to where you want to be now. Does that make sense for everyone? I'm exhausted.
Wow, I
Same.
think so. Yes, I can understand that.
That was a lot. All right. Just a quick check-in, Yusuf. Have I moved from a 6 to an 8? Come on. Come on, Yusuf. 6.5?
6.8.
Yeah, I knew it. Perfect. All right. Great to spend this time with you all. If you have any questions, let me know. And the replay will come up if not tomorrow, probably sometime this weekend. I've got a lot of events happening this week, so I'll be a little bit slower than usual, but the replay will be available pretty soon. Have a great afternoon, evening, morning, wherever it is, wherever you are, and hopefully see
Have
you all
a-
on Friday.
Yeah,
Thank
have a
you.
great week.
Thank
Good luck
you.
with the events.